I know all of you are probably maybe a little bit closer to Edinburgh, but we do have over 70 locations, including Pittsburgh. So probably, obviously, Erie would be closest. Erin here is at our 26th Street office. But if you guys have any questions, like she was saying at the beginning, we can take questions at the beginning or at the end of the presentation. Feel free to put it in the chat, and we'll take questions at the end, and we will share the information as well. So I will share the screen, and we will let Erin get started. There. All right. Can you see my screen, Erin?
Not yet. It's black. Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Gardening time.
Yep, and then I'll share it for you. Okay.
All right, so I'm going to be talking about gardening and ways that you can kind of save your joints and hopefully your fatigue levels and won't be as bad, and kind of pacing yourself so that you don't do too much at a time. But if you want to go to the next slide.
I put this in. This is just a disclaimer. None of this is intended for a formal diagnostic or anything. So if you feel like you have symptoms, consult your doctor. And just to notice that we are recording this as well.
Yeah. Okay, so we all know that gardening can be difficult. I know that whenever I see a bunch of weeds in my garden, I'm like, oh Lord, here we go again. So it's nice though, because it can be very rewarding whenever you do see the fruits of your effort. And it can be very hard on your body though to garden, because you're down on your knees and hands, or you're bending over. Those type of movements can be very hard on your body. So we all know that gardening takes time and patience, because you do have to spread it out sometimes over a few days. Sometimes the job is just too big. You can't do it all at once. But we all do lifting, pushing, pulling, and carrying whenever we garden. And it's an ongoing process. So it's not just you garden one time and you're done. It's through the spring, summer, and the fall that, there's a lot to be done in your flower beds, in your shrub beds, whatever type of perennials or annuals that you have to take care of. You will definitely be doing it for 3 of the seasons. So go ahead and turn it to next. Okay, so, what can we do to make it easier? Well, we can pay somebody, but we all know that's really expensive. And, the only person that can do a good job is yourself, because I know that I'm pretty particular when it comes to weeds and even mowing the lawn. I like things done a certain way, so you end up doing it yourself. But there are things that we can do to make things easier. So choosing larger handled tools. If you have arthritis in your hands, you want a tool that fits nicely in your hand and gives you something to hold on to. Smaller handled tools will fatigue your hands faster. Just like when you use a small pen, it fatigues your hand faster than a larger handled pen. So the same is true for your gardening tools. Choose larger handled, nice fitting tools. If it feels good in your hand, then it's probably the tool for you. So sit whenever possible. And, they have these really nice stools that you can buy from Lowe's that put you lower to the ground. So you're not standing and bending so much with your back, but you're actually seated. You also want to do the heaviest activities when you have the most energy. So if you have some heavy lifting that you have to do that first thing. And that'll be easier on you because you'll have the most energy then. And if you have to do really heavy lifting, have someone do it for you. Make sure whenever your kids are over or a neighbor asks to help you, say, yes, I do need some help and I need it for this. So plan those things out, because if you do, you'll save your back. You could possibly, save yourself from having an injury that will kind of put you out for the whole season instead of, just asking for help. So definitely do that. And whenever you are gardening, you want to keep a stool or a bench nearby so you can rest when you're tired. So you don't want to push through the activity. You want to take a break. You don't want to go, oh, I can do 5 minutes more, 10 minutes more. It's really not worth it. If you rest for those 5 or 10 minutes, then maybe you might be able to do some more. So go ahead and go to the next slide, girl. Thanks. So rest frequently before you feel tired and pace yourself. So it's very hard to find the middle ground between doing too much and doing too little. So you have to kind of figure out, okay, based on how I'm feeling today, this is what I think I can get done. So you want to spend just enough time on the activity without causing yourself to become excessively fatigued. Because when we're excessively fatigued, sometimes that can throw us out for 2 or 3 days. And then you're not getting much done during those 2 or 3 days. So if you rest, you will find that you might have a little bit more energy. So you want to use lightweight, like when you're mowing the lawn, lightweight self-propelled power lawnmower or riding mower, or pay the kid down the street to mow your lawn. You want to kind of pick and choose your activities that mean the most to you. Excuse me. If you really like mowing the lawn, then maybe that's something you don't want to give away. Maybe that's something you want to do. But definitely be smart about it. Don't be using those old-fashioned push mowers that don't have that self-propelled mechanism in them, because you'll just wear yourself out way too fast. And cut your grass weekly. Don't let it go 2 weeks and you have that really thick grass that you really have to work at to get rid of, and you have to rake it, and use a bag on your mower if you can, or like I do, let the kid across the street mow it. So it is really helpful because it cuts down on what I have to do. I can do something else then. So some people have those old-fashioned hedges in their yard. I personally can't stand hedges just because of the work that's involved in trimming them. So if you have lower hedges, you want to sit to trim them, and you want to avoid trimming hedges that are excessively high, because you can really hurt your shoulders and your neck when you're holding a hedge clipper or a hedge trimmer. Or pay someone to do the high hedges or tree limbs. Don't try to do them yourself, because you can really hurt yourself, and it's much less expensive to have someone do it than to be paying for medical bills. So the likelihood of somebody falling off a ladder is significantly higher when there's something in your hands. So you're on a ladder and you're trying to clip, hedges, and the likelihood of you falling is far greater. So try not to do that. Try to get your young nephew or, whoever you got that's a little bit younger around the house to do that, because that can be very much a dangerous activity when you're on a ladder with a hedge trimmer. So one other good thing that you can do is, let's say you have a lot on your list to do outside. Well, planning ahead to create a work list of everything you want to accomplish is something that you should do. Like, let's say I want to plant my annuals in my front bed. I need to weed my beds. I need to mow the lawn. I want to do some edging. I might want to clip a few low branches. I kind of have an idea of what it is I want to do. So you want to divide your list into days instead of thinking, oh, I'm going to do this all today, because that will just wear you out and and then probably aggravate your joint pain. You might pull or pull a muscle or strain a muscle. It's not worth it. You want to kind of divide your work up into several days, not just one day. And, you kind of, let's say you have company coming over and you want the yard to look great. Well, then you have to kind of think ahead to the time when the following week you should have been planning for this, not thinking, okay, I'm going to do everything Thursday and then everybody's coming over Friday. That's just way too much work and you'll just wear yourself out. So go ahead to the next slide. Thank you. So eliminate extra steps in a task and break down work into smaller parts if you can. So let's say you want to do some potting and you have your dirt over on the other side of the garage and you have your work table and you have all your pots and paint, or all your pots like underneath the one cabinet, and you have all your annuals or plants on the table. Well, you don't want to have that extra step of having to go get the pots and then go get the potting. So you want everything close by you, and you want it in the steps that you're going to be doing the task. So you have your pot, you have your soil, then you have your plant that you put in. So think about tasks like that. Think about different steps you can eliminate in the task to make it easier for you. And then, of course, avoid rushing and overexerting yourself. There's no point in it. You want to take your time. You don't want to overlift something that you can't lift because you might get hurt. And then, getting hurt can take away your whole summer, depending on what you do. If you strain or sprain your back, if you do something to a hip or hand or, your wrist, it just isn't worth it. So when you are lifting, make sure that you're using good body mechanics. You want to face the object, you want to keep the object close to your body, and you want to be symmetrical when you're lifting the object. You don't want part of the box below. You don't want to have it, you don't want to go like that. You want to be nice and even when you're lifting. You want to have a good wide base of support. So you want to make sure your feet are nice and away, they're not too close together. You want them nice and away from each other so that you won't fall over with whatever it is you're trying to hold. And it works best if you can use your legs for lifting versus your low back. So if you can get down and use your legs to lift, then you're going to have less of a chance of hurting your back. So when we're working, we don't want to be doing excessive bending. We want to have our work tables at a comfortable working height. And a lot of that is countertop height. So if you look at your counters in your kitchen, that's pretty much a good height for your working tables in your garage. It all depends on how tall you are, but most people can work well off of countertops. So you won't be hurting your back excessively with a lower table. You want it to be like the size of your countertops. So organize your work centers. That would be the next thing that I would suggest, and make sure your most frequently used items are easy to reach. You want to know where things are. You want to be organized. That saves you time so that you're not looking around for stuff and wasting energy milling around trying to find whatever it is that you need. And that involves avoiding clutter. So I know I love to keep everything, but I do know that when it's time to throw something away, I probably should donate it because I'm not using it anymore. And if you keep things nice and neat and organized, you will not waste your energy trying to find stuff. So also when you're doing exercise, you don't want to or doing gardening, you don't want to repeat the same movement for more than 10 or 15 minutes. You want to break up the movement with a stretch. So let's say I keep digging and I keep digging and I'm digging and I'm digging and it's like 10 minutes and I'm still digging this hole for this, shrub. Well, I want to then, stretch my hands. I want to maybe bring my arms up this way. I want to bring my shoulders back. I want to break up the activity with a nice stretch so that I don't get a sprain or a strain or, sore muscles. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So some simple stretches that will help reduce fatigue I have here. And, if any of these stretches are hard on you, you don't want to do that stretch because you might have something else going on. But they're just simple stretches that you can do. And I know it says computer and desk stretches, but when you're gardening and you're sitting and you're digging, you're kind of in that seated position. But doing any of these stretches are really going to help, even when you're not gardening, help you to feel a little bit better and not as, it helps fatigue. And a different movement is always beneficial because then you won't get that repetitive work stress on your joints. So go ahead and go to the next screen. I got more stretches here for your back. Now, if you have a problem getting into some of these postures, don't do that stretch. Just do what you can. And I really like the extension stretch, the back extension stretch. That's a really good one because we spend a lot of time in a forward posture. So if you can break it up and stretch your back backwards, definitely if you feel dizzy or anything, hold on to a countertop. But going back is definitely very beneficial for your back. It can even help alleviate some back pain if you're having low back pain. Go ahead to the next one. So remember the ifs. So if you're becoming fatigued during gardening, remember to take a break. Taking a break will allow your body to recover, which will allow you to garden longer. If any of these stretches, like I said before, are causing pain, you don't want to do that stretch. And if your pain lasts longer for a few days, then you've done too much. So attempt to scale back your activity the next time you are out in your yard. So you kind of know if you're doing too much, well, what got you to that point? Were you doing too many activities and you didn't break it up well? You weren't pacing yourself? Were you trying to do too much lifting on your own? You kind of have to reflect back as to why you feel the way you do. And if your pain doesn't go away after a few days, you may have hurt yourself and you should make an appointment to see your family doctor. So usually, aches and pains will go away within a couple days, but if yours lasts longer than a couple days, then I'd be a little concerned about that. So go ahead and go to the next slide. So does anybody have any questions? Anything they're concerned about? You have to take yourself off mute.
Yeah, and just so you guys know, this is her contact information. It's Erin's direct email. If you guys have questions that maybe you're uncomfortable to ask in front of everyone on here, feel free to reach out. If they're go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, there was somebody who mentioned a handout. Well, two people who mentioned handouts. If anybody would like to have this PowerPoint presentation, please send me in the chat a direct message with your email address. Don't put it into everybody, but you can change who you're sending it to, where it says everyone to just myself, Randall Gross. And I'm happy to get you the PowerPoint presentation that Kelsey will send to me.
Yeah, and just to wrap up, like I mentioned, we're with Centers for Rehab Services, but we do offer obviously the occupational therapy, but we also offer a lot of other programs. So if you're having difficulties with like neuro, balance, or vestibular challenges, or if you feel like you're at fall risk, we can do stuff like that. We have pelvic floor therapy for urinary fecal incontinence for men and women. And then we have your typical, physical therapy. And we also have speech therapy where obviously we can help with speech, but we can also help with cognitive rehab. So if you're having any cognitive or memory challenges, there is outpatient rehab for that. And so all the programs I just mentioned and Erin's program here, they're all outpatient. So you don't have to go into a hospital or anything like that. And we do have what's called direct access. Most of our therapists have this. And what this means is you can actually come and see one of our therapists without a script from your physician. So we can treat you up to 30 days. So that kind of helps you from having to, contact a specialist or your primary care doctor just to get a script to come to therapy. We can see you right away. So feel free to contact any of our offices and I can send that information as well with the PowerPoint.
I have a question.
Yeah.
The back relax exercises on the screen were pretty small, so you can't really see them very well. And I think if you send us the slide one, they'll still be small. Is there a way to get our website we can go to see those pictures, to try some of those?
Yeah, I have to, where I got the picture, I'd have to let you know where I got that picture. But I did get it off of the web. So I'd have to just give you the, information on where I got it.
That would be great. Thank you.
Anybody else? You guys are a quiet bunch.
I put a question on the chat thing, what is the best kind of wheelbarrow when you're hauling bark or something, and then what's the best way to spread it?
Oh gosh. So standard wheelbarrows, I would say they're the best. A big wheel on the end and nice long handles would be what I would use. I wouldn't have it be too deep, because then you might be, hauling something might be too heavy. But I think that it's kind of hard because there's not a lot of forgiveness with spreading mulch. So what I usually do is I dump it in an area from my wheelbarrow, and then sometimes I even get a broom and I kind of sweep it around where I want it, or I use like a rake, like a plastic rake, and I kind of get it into the areas that I want it in. But if you want to build up the handle of your rake and make it a little softer, you can do that with some foam, which might help, your hands not get the calluses. But I try to stay off my knees as much as possible when I'm spreading mulch.
Do you have have you tried those two-wheeled wheelbarrows? I've seen those. I didn't know if they'd be any more sturdy or less tippy, or.
Well, I think what you're looking for is ease of pushing whenever you're pushing it. I have a couple wheelbarrows that have two wheels, and they're just a little mini thing. I don't know if it's a mini one that you're talking about, but the ones I have seen are small, and you kind of take it with you when you go around, and you might have some of your gardening tools in it. Is that what you're talking about? Or
Well, I saw some at Walmart that looked about the same size as a regular wheelbarrow, but they had the two wheels, and I just wondered if that'd be easier pushing or not,
Was it a plastic wheel, or was it a wheel that had air in it?
No, I'm not. I think a wheel that had air in it, but I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I would say if the maneuverability of the wheelbarrow feels better to you, like if you get it off of the shelf and you actually push it in the aisle and you feel how it feels and how far you have to dip down with your back, I think that would be probably the best way to kind of gauge on whether or not you like it. Like, especially when you turn a corner, like, do you feel like you have control over the wheelbarrow or not?
Yeah.
But I haven't seen the double wheeled ones. I just know the huge wheel ones, the one wheel.
Thank you.
What about raised beds or raised planters?
I think that
finding any that are the right height. Do you have a suggestion?
Yeah.
Where to look?
Sometimes you have to get somebody to build them for you. So they'll actually come to your house and ask you where you want the bed. And you just, like, landscapers will sometimes build beds for you. But, they're expensive. But, that's how I've seen them built. I don't know of one you can buy already ready to go.
Okay, because I had one specially built and it was great, but then when we at the price of wood now in our area, it's just outrageous to even think of building something with wood.
Yeah, it's pretty bad right now. I would probably wait until you know, the epidemic is a little bit more under control and people, the supply chain is restored, because that's part of the problem, is that people can't get stuff like they used to.
There
So-
are kits that can be bought. There are